Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of World Edition on the Pod TV network. I'm Nick Palavita. I will not be your host today. That'll either be Steve Rao or Mark Lee if he gets his sound working. But what we do have is a person that you've seen a lot on our network. He heads up the great show Ukraine, Russia, and China, and I'm dying to hear what happened to Vladimir Putin. We also have one of the founders of the Pod TV network, Kim Calhoun, who beamed in to save our bacon when she found out we were desperate for host. And so we're going to bring in Kim. Does your sound work, Kim?
Yeah, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does work. Okay.
All right. So check it out. I'm representing the witches who survived.
Like you?
The slaughter back in 1692 when the Christians came in and decided they wanted our assets.
Right.
And so they, accused us of being witches. You know how the vast majority of idiots follow evil and do evil's deeds?
Yeah, right.
So, the Christians came in and what they really wanted was our land and our money. And so they, condemned us of being witches and took our land and money while they tortured and killed us. They're heinous men. You know how they are, start wars and everything else. But 1692, the one who survived.
Okay, so we have a
That's why I came on today, to make a point, that there are so many things that have happened in our history, and a lot of people are misled or they misinterpret and they follow the wrong way. And you need to absorb and learn everything that you can, and then try to follow the right way. But all too often in history, the innocent people, the women, the children, the real innocent people were killed by men who convinced other people that they were wrong and they were bad. But so I'm here to save your butts today.
Okay, well, I'm glad there's somebody saving your bacon. Believe it or not, Steve Rao, who is a man with the news, has shown up so he can give us the insight of what's going on today around the world. So
yeah, I'm sorry I'm late. I want to just open up today with some things, and I've got to go on WPTF today, so I've got to go get ready for the show this afternoon. But real quickly, the main thing is that Israel, the war continues to go on. There's been a lot of heat that President Trump's taking for denouncing the attack on October 7th, and so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the presidential election. Really, I think many people on the more progressive side of the caucus, and of course the House has now been taken over by Matt Johnson, are claiming that Israel end the blockade of the Gaza Strip, and that's going to be kind of an interesting thing moving forward. All of this going on while the Ukraine war continues to go on. So they're targeting a lot of raids overnight in Gaza, and full-fledged ground invasion to topple Hamas is really the next step with fighter jets and drones. So really, this is a scorched earth kind of war where either side is going to be just devastated. I can't remember the name, Li Keqiang, former prime minister of China, died of a heart attack. America has alleged that the Kremlin is executing Russian soldiers who are not following orders related to the war in Ukraine. And Maine's governor has said that 18 people were killed and 13 injured in mass shootings at a restaurant and bowling alley in Lewiston, Maine. And of course, Mark Lee brought up about Qatar sentencing 8 Indian nationals to death over unspecified charges. It's reported that former naval officers were found guilty of spying for Israel. Interesting that India is getting into the espionage business, both with Canada and now this. And I'll end with this as we open up the show. I think everyone's kind of all eyes on Matt Johnson, the new speaker. Will there be a continued new normal? I spoke to Congressman Nickel last night, and he has been districted out of his seat and has lost his congressional seat. He has nowhere to run. The Republicans put him in a 15% Republican district, drew him out of the map, and so he'll be a one-term congressman. He's pretty upset. Nothing we can do about North Carolina because the Republican court, Supreme Court of the United States has said that they're not going to get involved with state gerrymandering cases. So, I just want to go in the room and look at the chalkboard that these guys are drawing these maps, and so they're going to pick up. They'll go for in North Carolina from 7 Republicans to 10, 3 Democrats, and then 1 competitive race. So,
I have a question
pretty
to
pathetic.
ask.
And,
I have a question to ask.
Yeah.
Why do you think Israel did not go after just Hamas terrorists like we did when 9/11 happened? Why do you think they haven't taken that strategy instead of just bombing the heck out of a bunch of innocent people? I am willing to bet not one Hamas has been killed in any of this. Not one. So this is just plain stupidity on their part and plain meanness and
sometimes
hate.
You're right. It's not one. It's 50 top Hamas commanders have been killed so far. So you're right. It's not one. It's 50. 50.
I think part of and I'm going to let Sasha start go because I got to leave in a couple minutes. But I think that that part of it could be intentional, right? That in many ways this attack could be used by Netanyahu to do what he's always wanted, which is not have a 2-state solution and go in there with the ground invasion and eventually just take over the Gaza Strip
and kill all the Palestinians, which is what he's always wanted to do anyway.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
I think with Trump, it's
Hey, Steve, can y'all hear me? By the way,
I mean,
y'all
and
couldn't hear me
I think
earlier.
that,
It's so easy to go in and just take out Hamas one at a
Yes,
time,
I
like
can
we
hear you.
did with the
Wouldn't be
terrorists.
so easy though if there wouldn't be October
Ethics.
7th. It
Ethics.
wouldn't be so easy if there wouldn't be October 7th. So you don't do October 7th.
But that was terrorists. You know what? It would have been
No.
easy if we didn't do 9/11.
A lot of
It would have been
Palestinians
easy if we didn't
supported
do
that.
attack.
They were participated in the taking hostages. They were
It would have been
dancing on the
better if
streets
no
of
one attacked
Gaza.
Ukraine, right,
The
Sasha?
people who were being tortured and killed and raped, they were dancing.
But Sasha, you gotta look at
Bravo!
history.
Hello!
Yeah, but you got to look
you gotta
at
look at
It's
the
a
entire
paytime,
Gaza
baby.
was being
It's a
attacked for
paytime,
years.
baby. It's there. Okay. Oh, now you have to think. Oh, why did we do that October 7th? Who needs that? But it's done.
But
It's
when
a
did anyone
payback.
ever say, why is Israel attacking Gaza all these
Well,
years?
listen, don't tell me 2,000 years ago and 10,000
But
years ago.
Gaza didn't
It's what's
attack
happening now. It's
Israel.
October 7th.
Hamas did.
Deal with what's today. It's October 7th. There has to be a payback. Hamas has to be taken out completely.
Right,
Until
take
the
Hamas
very
out.
first-
Don't take
Hamas
Gaza.
out. But they are hiding. They are using this as a human shields. This is the problem. They have 300 miles of tunnels where they are preparing all the truck. All that has to be destroyed and liquidated, and it's going to happen. It's already
Well,
happening.
definitely.
Not a real leader. They're not real leaders.
Hamas
They need to be
commanders
taken
are
out
being killed.
themselves.
Well, there will be a lot of collateral damage. Sorry, but it's a war.
Don't
It
turn
is
your
a
back
war.
on them.
Was it Nagasaki and Hiroshima suffering
Your
during
back
the
on
war?
Israel.
What they did? What about Dresden? Dresden suffered during
Hey,
the war.
hey, Sasha,
200,000
speaking,
people killed in one night.
Yeah.
So
Sasha, speaking of
Israel
that
will
and
support
everything, and I love to hear
Hamas
first thought.
started a war on October 7th. There is a war. Okay, be prepared. There are consequences.
Then they need to go after Hamas.
No,
just
speaking
like
of
we
the
did
war,
the terrorists.
Kimberly.
Terrorists started a war with us, and we didn't go kill everyone.
Kimberly,
We
Hamas
didn't
is,
kill the
Hamas
terrorists.
is a government of Palestine. So
What?
if
No,
Hamas is a government, it won election.
not the government of the
Thank
entire
God I
Palestine. It's
survived.
not the government of the
Okay,
entire Palestine.
enough, Kim.
It's
Okay,
not the government of the
God
entire
won.
Palestine.
They won election, then they usurped the power completely, and they're unopposed in Palestine. Okay, that's a tragedy. I understand that, but that's a reality. So what you do when the government of a country starts a war, you hit back, and
It
you
was-
hit
you
back
don't-
hard.
You go after
I hear what you're
those.
saying, Sasha, but Sasha, there's actually multiple. It's like there are different factions within Palestine. So the Hamas is the terrorist faction,
Mark,
and
it's too
most people think that
complicated.
they are the terrorist faction,
It's
and
too
everybody agrees
complicated.
that and everything. But
When
hold on a
Germany
second.
started
Hold on a
war,
second, Sasha.
there were a
I was
lot
actually going
of
to ask about the
There's
U.S.
a
military.
lot of people in Germany who didn't like Hitler, but so what? there is a collective responsibility.
Oh, you should
And
read
Germany
the story
dealt
about
with that
Hitler and
for
Israel.
20 even
That
certain
is so
after the
interesting.
war. Okay.
No, Kimberly, one
You
of the things
should
I was
read
gonna,
that story. It is really
yeah, there's some
interesting. All the
fascinating
stuff they've
connections
dug
between
up
Israel
about
and
Hitler and
Germany. But
Israel.
what I was going to ask everybody is, are we going into, and Steve, maybe you have some thoughts because you're a politician and everything, into an expanded war? Because what I saw that was very interesting today that you did not cover, Steve, is that the U.S. military carried out an airstrike on facilities in Syria that they say were operated by Iranian-backed forces. So it does look like we are now getting personally involved because the U.S. fighter jets struck the kind of area there in Syria using ammo and well, actually they struck ammo and weapon storage there in Syria, which is another part of the Middle East. So are we getting?
Yeah, I was about to mention that.
Do you know how many American soldiers were already
I'll be
injured
right back, guys.
from Iran-backed forces? They were injured. They're now fighting for their lives in this air carrier. Okay, I'll tell you, 16.
You know how many Christians have
16.
been killed over
Listen,
in Gaza?
I'm talking about American
Christians and
soldiers.
children.
I'm talking about American soldiers. Are you American, Kim? Who
Yes,
you
I
are?
am. Do you know how many
You are.
Americans?
That's
Do you know how
great.
many Christians are being killed?
Okay, I don't care. What I'm
I
going to
do.
tell you
I
is that
care about how many people are being
16
killed.
U.S. soldiers in the last 2 days were injured and fighting for their life by
What was it you
American
said,
soldiers.
Sasha? Casualty
Some
of
of them
war?
will not make it, by
Didn't
the
you
way.
say
Are you kidding?
casualty of war? You're the
Are
one
you
who said
kidding?
casualty
By
of
the
war.
way,
You're the
some of
one.
the soldiers
Sasha,
are
you're the one who said
Christians. They
casualties
are
of war.
suffering now. Okay, U.S. soldiers injured by
We need to
Iranian
go in and kill
forces are
Hamas.
fight. I'm talking about American soldiers. Forget about Hamas and all
If
that
you
stuff.
don't cut out the
U.S.
cancer,
American
it's going
soldiers
to
are being
continue to
injured by
grow.
Iran-backed forces. Did
If you
get it,
don't cut
Kim?
out the cancer, it will continue to grow. You need to cut Hamas out, not all the people around Hamas. You
Hey,
want
Kim,
to
hey,
treat
Kim,
the problem
no, I
and
hear what you're
kill
saying. Hey, Kim,
Hamas.
hold
soldiers.
on a
No,
second, folks.
it's
Hey,
not
Kim.
Hamas who injured U.S. soldiers. It was Iran and Iranian-backed militias in the Syria and Levant region. That's who
That's what they said when they attacked and everything.
Well, then
Kim
we
and
go when
Sasha.
we do that.
Kim
But I
and
mean, war
Sasha.
needs to stop.
Hold on a second. Kim and Sasha, are we moving more into a war? Because the other news that Steve didn't get to was that Chinese fighter jets got within 10 feet of the U.S. bomber over the South China Sea. So maybe we're going to pull, I mentioned India yesterday, maybe we're going to pull China into this as well, because apparently they were 10 feet within each other and all along those
how
spaces.
horrible it is. Was anybody injured there? Any U.S. soldier was injured there? No?
No, not in this case, but they're just saying that they nearly
But I'm
collided.
telling you about the case where 16 American soldiers were heavily injured, and some of them are fighting for their lives.
Where were the soldiers injured, Sasha?
Where?
were they? Yeah, where?
Syria, in Syria by, there is a presence of U.S. forces in Syria.
Right.
So they were attacked and 16 soldiers were heavily injured. Some of them are fighting for their lives.
Really
So it
quick,
says 24 American soldiers have been injured. I don't know.
Well, the statistics is going
one of the
up every
things
hour, for sure.
One of the things that I have learned is that our behavior, our dysfunctional mannerisms here in the United States is leading us to put our children into the Third World War. That's what's happening. Because we're not behaving the way we should. We're not going after the people we should. We're not removing people from office that should be removed. And we're allowing our government to behave dysfunctional. And we need to end it. It needs to end. We need to go in and remove every one of them from office and start over and cleanse this country and get us straightened out. That's what's happening, because our children, we are pushing them into a third world war to deal with because of our behaviors. And people are going to do nothing. And again, remember what I said, you can beat each other up all you want, but when you cross that line to kill somebody, then all you end up with is an eye for an eye death rate. And it needs to end. And it needs
Speaking
to
of
end.
death rates and everything, and I think Steve alluded to it, maybe he didn't, but there is this notion of the Maine shooting, and a lot of people are up in arms about
Yeah,
our
this is
gun
horrible.
violence and all along
Horrible.
those lines. So, and I don't know
Why
what.
did he do it? Do we know why he did it?
No, there's still a lot more. I'm going to be. This is good prep for my radio, but they're still looking for the killer. He did have an AK-47, and it's just time and time again this is happening. Is it like people seeing that it's being done, and so they just feel like he was a trained firearms instructor. And then and recently there was something on one of my next door neighborhood posts that somebody was hit a car on the interstate, and the person pointed a handgun at the person, and then that person had a heart attack because they were
Hey,
75
Steve,
years
just here in
old.
Durham, we've had 2 lockdowns in the last 2 days. So definitely the gun violence is real. It's very real in different
Where's
areas.
the second one, Mark? Where's the second one?
It was 2 lockdowns in the school system
Yeah.
Here in North Carolina?
in Durham. 2 lockdowns in 2 days.
I know we're talking about all this devastation. What I want to say to this fact is one of the greatest threats to our society is mental health issues.
Yes.
And one of the things I'm very honored about is being on the board of advisors for mental health research at the Excellence Center. Of course, at UNC Chapel Hill with the doctors, we have finally completed 15 tiny homes so that people who are recovering from mental health issues have a home to live in so that they can rebuild their lives and transition. And it's so beautiful. This was completed this year. Just yesterday, we were celebrating it. We hope to be moving in patients very soon. This is very important because all too often we go, okay, you spent your time in the hospital or here, we've given you drugs, go live in the world. We're not giving them the training they need to sustain in society and feeling of acceptance. And there's a huge fear factor in their brains. Oh, okay, you're well, go. And they're not. And we see this reoccurring constantly. And, some of these people who are doing mass shootings have severe mental health issues.
They
And,
said the one in Maine may have had that as well.
But let's celebrate some good here today. I'm very happy that we've done that. If you want to donate to the cause, we need housewarming gifts for them, like pots, pans, linens, beds. We're going to a furniture place soon to get some furniture for the homes, to give them a fresh start so they feel normal, like normal society. But that is our biggest threat is mental health issues. Huge rate in suicides this year, very, very huge rate. This mass shooting thing's becoming a concern. And, children are doing this too. It's not just the adults. So we need to take this into consideration.
Yeah, it's really.
Kim, you brought up an interesting point. And that's the whole notion of homelessness and everything, because that's a big concern as well.
Yeah, the homelessness of mental health people is very big. And that's why we're going to continue growing these little villages. This one's built in a farm. But go ahead, Steve. What were you going to say?
No, just a couple of things before I head out today at 10:30. But the other thing we didn't talk about, I'm going to talk about it on Monday, but it is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. It's also been Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. so many months. But I think cyber, yeah. So we're going to talk about that. Hopefully next month we can get some guests to talk about some of these different months. We're all combined in one. But cybersecurity is also one that we don't talk enough about. I know that many governments and cities are very vulnerable to cyber attack, and very, very interesting to see kind of like what we're doing in terms of like not opening up links to emails. Cyber warfare is a new warfare, and we need to make sure that we're all being careful with our data, the privacy of our data. And in a matter of seconds, your data can be corrupted. One thing I would tell people listening to the show is when you're on Wi-Fi, try to be on your own secure Wi-Fi network. Don't use open Wi-Fi, even if you're in a coffee shop. Try to get on a virtual private network. Make sure that your devices are secure. Don't open up links
for a hotspot, right, Steve?
Yeah, I almost got caught in one where I got something from Facebook and it wasn't. So if you get this email from Facebook saying you've been reported for a violation, please hit this link. It's probably, they're trying to get your passwords, right? So just be careful. I think this is one of the top issues facing our country that we don't talk about enough, because cities and towns and governments and businesses are so vulnerable to cyber attack. The other thing I'll say is that, and I'll talk about it next week, I published an article today that was published on WRL TechWire about my 30-minute coffee with John Chambers virtually, where we cut up about a number of issues. One, AI, India, and I'll sum it up, but we'll talk about it more next week. But what was interesting about his observations of AI is that he said that he's bet on 17 investments since in his venture capital firm, and 3 are billion-dollar companies. They're all AI companies. And he's recommending that a lot of his companies that are startups become AI companies. But what's interesting is he said he's recommending that companies have an AI strategy, very similar to an internet strategy, where you find out what applications are prime time for AI, wrap it into your business model. Every business is going to be a digital business. The other thing that he said, which I found interesting when I asked him about job loss, he said that it's very much like the cloud revolution. When, we thought the retail businesses and everything were moving online, lots of jobs were going to be lost, but then we were able to have new companies born, and those companies invested and jobs went up because human beings were put in skills where they're more valued. So this is why it's critically important, he says, for startups, and he was very passionate about startup companies. I know Mark and Kimberly, we're all entrepreneurs, Durham's heavily, but he said one area where North Carolina is weak is startups aren't coming from the universities. So he thinks that's an area that we need to get better. He also, when I asked him, do you stand by your prediction about India? And I'll just end with this. He said, well, Steve, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm pretty good at predicting things because he acquired 180 companies in a 20-year period at Cisco. But he said one reason is he recognizes patterns. And he said, this is a movie that I've seen play out before. India is going to grow from 6 to 12% a year the next 5 years. He said that there's 60% of the population is under the age of 30. Very optimistic. And it's a digital economy. They've done a better job than the U.S. even in terms of digitizing everything, automating everything, making sure that everyone has internet access in the rural villages, and investments in infrastructure. So he says, and the population of India is going to go to 2 billion, where China is going to go down to 700,000. So he said it was one of his honors to say that in front of the Prime Minister of India when he was introducing him. But it was a fascinating interview, and hopefully we can bring him on the show. He's very busy. He's booked out almost like a year out now at this point, but he's on his way to India to meet the Prime Minister and to advise the Indian government. He's actually an advisor on Tech India, but just really interesting. I'll share. It says WRL TechWire. Do a Google, and it's it calls Rao goes toe to toe with tech giant. That's
a lot of people don't know where BRICS came from, right? And it was, it was identified as the countries who had the highest growth rates for their future based on the patterns that they were doing. That's how that got started. And then it has continued to grow. So that's why it was identified originally. These countries are focused on their growth. They're not focused on all the things that were dysfunctionally located, and they're united. Right, Steve? That's the thing. And I think that John sees, because I worked with John when he first started Cisco many years ago and baited his equipment. And I think one of the things he sees is that they're united, and you have to be united, not divided. Our country is severely divided.
United country, and that's a great way for me to end. A united country that has taken a government that was bureaucratic and corrupt, and there's still a lot of corruption, but actually got nimble and agile in making investments because they can unite around the one thing that they want India to do, the things that they never thought they would do: land a spacecraft on the moon. Be a country that, can do different things. Now, with that, there comes a price, and part of it is, journalists don't have the rights they used to and have in India, crack down on religious minorities like Muslims and Christians and others. Is India really a true democracy, which my own mother and father sometimes say they're concerned that it's moving away, and this whole notion of a Hindu state, which kind of is, even though I am a practicing Hindu, not really Orthodox, it is kind of alarming, right? But we'll be talking about some of these issues next week. I'm going to leave it to you all. I want to wish you a wonderful weekend. Back next week for World Edition, and then of course World Politics. And eyes on Matt Johnson. We got two gentlemen from the Bayou State now. One is the Speaker. The next is the Majority Leader of the House, Steve Scalise. I guess they'll get ready for Mardi Gras. My prediction in a crystal ball is that the Democrats will take over the House next year.
Yep.
And Hakeem Jeffries will be the Speaker, because I think that the American people are so concerned of whether the Republicans can control the Congress. So will we see a split? Will we see a Democratic president reelected with a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate? Or will we, normally the American people usually split things. Will we see a Republican president with a Democratic House and Democratic Senate?
Hey Steve,
only
before you
time-
leave,
Have
Steve,
a spooky weekend.
hey Steve, before you
Happy
leave,
Halloween.
are you concerned at all about this run against the president? Because Dean Phillips, who is the House Representative, is going to run, and I did see that he's running against Biden, and I also saw that there's one other person in addition to Robert Kennedy. So apparently there are three people that are launching primaries against President Biden.
I'll end with this. I do believe all of a sudden, it started with his presidential address. Biden is all of a sudden starting to look more presidential. Yes, he's 83, but I think it'll be hard for anyone to really come in and beat him. The biggest thing going against him is his age, but as long as he's meeting his physicians and not having dementia or anything like that, the challenge is going to be, can he connect to younger voters? But he did look more presidential in the Oval Office address to the American people. Maybe this crisis, although unfortunate, will actually make him shine a little bit more in the commander-in-chief role. And people might just say, hey, we're going to give this guy one more chance. Whether he can make it to a 4-year term, that's the question. He'll be 85 when he leaves the White House. Of course, you got Jimmy Carter at 99 years old, who has not died yet, even though they said he was in hospice, and he was out at a festival last month. So, but Mark, I think it'll be hard to beat Joe Biden for the nomination unless he steps down and anoints someone else like Gavin Newsom. I don't think Kamala Harris will be able to beat him in a primary. I don't think she'll be able to. I think the only way she becomes president is if he anoints her to be a caretaker president for 2 years, which is a rumor that I've heard from others in the White House, that he may leave after 2 years and then hand it over to her on the condition that she doesn't run again for the presidency. But let's see. I mean, you never know. You never know in politics. But he is the president of the United States, and he's got a lot of crises on his hands right now. But thank you all so much. Be back on Monday. Have a great weekend. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween and everything. Hey,
Yes,
just
sir.
really quickly, I see we've got
Go
Jacoby.
see the spookies this weekend.
I see we've got Jacoby with us and all along those lines.
Hi,
but
Jacoby.
there is another presidential candidate that has pulled out of the Republican side and is endorsing Mr. Trump, that being Larry Elder. And I know that when he's been here, Lee Newton Rhodes has been a fan of some things that Larry Elder has said and others have said. But now that we've had Larry Elder, I think Perry Johnson and a couple of others drop out, it just pretty much sealed the deal that Trump is going to be the nominee for the Republican Party, because it seems like every time you turn around, another Republican is dropping out. I did see that Larry Elder dropped out and gave his endorsement to Mr. Trump as for former President Trump.
I think they're just
Perry
embarrassed to be Republican, so they're dropping out. Just kidding. Hey, Jacoby, you got any good Halloween games for us?
I mean, there are a ton of Halloween games that are out there. One of them.
What would you recommend for children?
For children, Mages of Mystralia is actually a really good game. It's a role play and action RPG. You can get it on the Epic Game Store. It you basically can combine different elements, and you learn about the different elements and how they react to each other in a very basic form. For example, if you want to create a spell that has that deals with a storm. What do you need with the storm? You need basically hot air and cold air. So, you can create that friction with ice and fire and do lightning abilities. And so it's a neat little game. It's one to definitely try. I mean, there's Epistory, if I remember, that's how it's pronounced. It's actually it teaches you how to type. You actually have to type on the keyboard, and that's how you do your spells, is if you type it out on the keyboard. So I mean, there are tons of games out there that are really, really fun.
It sounds like it and everything. Hey, Kim, I got a
I got
question
a
for you.
spell catcher for you. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
I got this at Universal Studios.
Oh, yeah.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, Harry Potter. Hey, Kim, I got a question for you and everything, because there was a case involving international news, and it actually involved a mother's love. So it was actually in Italy, but apparently a mother won a court case to evict her two sons in their 40s. So it says the mother's love does have their limits, at least for a 75-year-old woman in the northern Italian city of Pavia, who won a court case after suing to have her sons aged 40 and 42 removed from her house. So I was wondering, did you ever run across that where you were thinking that you had grown kids and they needed to get out in their own? Because the two sons, described in court papers by their mothers as parasites, had been living in the family apartment without contributing financially or helping around the house, according to the complaint filed by this woman, and all along those lines. So just wondering, is this something we're going to see more of? Because a lot of people have been living at home, and definitely during the pandemic, and definitely in general, even at older ages and everything. So are we going to be borrowing from the lessons of the fine folks there in Italy and kicking folks out because of what's going on? And I always think, because apparently this is not the first time. In 2020, Italy's Supreme Court ruled against a 35-year-old man who worked as a part-time music teacher who still expected financial support from his parents after he argued that he could not support himself for an annual salary of 20,000 euros, which comes out to roughly $21,100 and everything. So
I think we're going to see more and more of the need to for family tree living, as I would call it. You know, where the children just have no means, even after they graduate from college, especially after they graduate from college, to get out into the world, because their student debt is so high. Our interest rates are too high for them to even get a loan, let alone qualify for a loan. The credit cards are killing them. They can't even make ends meet. Even with 2 or 3 jobs. I mean, I did work 2 or 3 jobs from high school through college. You know, thank God things were different back then. And so when I graduated from college, I got a great job in the telecom industry with people like John Chambers. And, you know, we were able to build a little bit more secure life for ourselves. But today there is no opportunity for that. The debt is just way too high for some of these young people. And so I see them clinging harder for just their sake of sanity. And I see the parents having a lot of sympathy for them and not knowing what to do, because it's hard. In fact, I just spoke with parents yesterday at the celebration of the 15 tiny homes that we were cutting over for the mental health recovery patients. And, you know, he said, maybe we need to look into this for our children, and students are going to be begging for this. You know, the graduates are going to be begging for a home like this. I was driving back from New Bern, and you know how they have mobile home sales along the highway there. And mobile homes, just a tiny single wide, are going for $100,000. A shoebox is going for $100,000. So our society's economics has gone upside down, and it's rivering up to begin with. I think all of this started during a lot of it started before COVID, but I think a lot of it just really kicked us hard during COVID, where they gave all of these rich people these huge PPP loans they don't have to return. They in turn have taken and reinvested that into their comfort, where they can, do what they need. And now they're making it harder. And now it's like we were discussing the other night. The gap isn't rich, middle class, poverty. The gap is now rich, poverty, and middle class. And we're slowly pushing the middle class into the poverty sector, and that's really stupid on the rich man's scale, because they need that middle class. They need it, and they're not investing in it.
No, I hear you. Hey, Sasha, just really, I agree with you. Sasha, just really quickly, because earlier today I was out and about, and I did see some folks that were in that homeless kind of environment here in North Carolina. You could tell that they had packed up and had like their tent cities and all in that space. So I was just wondering, is it as bad in Canada as it is portrayed and as we see it here in the United States? So like where you are in that city in Canada, do you see a number of homeless people, and are there efforts to try to keep them out of that homeless situation? Because it is a major problem in the United States, I would argue, in parts of Latin America, but I'm not that familiar with Canada to know whether it's something that you're seeing even when you get out and about and everything. So Sasha, is it a problem there in Canada?
No, I really don't see homeless people in Toronto, at least where I live. But a few years ago, especially during the winter time, there were some homeless people, and they were concentrating around, the holes from where the hot air was coming out of the building heating system. And so it was much warmer than otherwise. So they were concentrating there, but it's been a few years ago. Of course, I'm not driving to inspect these places and find out if there are more or less homeless people. But that's the last time I've seen them, a few years ago.
Wow. I wish
And
we-
actually, that's going to be a subject of our discussion on Economics Monday. It's not only the failure of our K through 12 system over many, many years as they study algebra and try to become these little tech people that don't work, unemployed tech people. But what happens is this. Here's the end result of our bad educational system. 10% of our society in the United States, which is about 33 million people, own 70% of all the assets, stocks, bonds, real estate, income, everything. They've got the world, and they live pretty good. And then the bottom 70%, they don't even have $1,000 in the United States of America. So the middle class, what's that? It's that 20% that's evaporating is really, in other words, if you're in the middle class, you're either moving into the top 10% that has 70% of the assets, or you're moving down into the bottom 70% that don't have $1,000. And so for somebody to say our K through 12 education system is great is delusional. It is not great, because this is what we're graduating. They all take algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2. It will not help you. What it will do is it'll put you into that 70% category, unless you hit the lottery and become an electrical engineer or chemical engineer and you get a great job, which is going to be a very small percentage of these people. So financial planning, which should be in all schools, investments, real estate, things that make a difference to people, relationship planning, that should all be in our educational system. By the way, giving teachers more money will not help. Anybody thinks, oh, teachers aren't paid enough. Well, they're not paid enough. But let me tell you something. If you're teaching the wrong subject, like Latin, and you get paid more, okay, you're still teaching the wrong subject and you're not helping the students. And unfortunately, right here in North Carolina, and it just really ticks me off. My grandkids come to me, say, what class are you taking? Well, I'm taking Latin. Latin, okay? The only reason they're not going to end up in the bottom 70% is grandpa won't let them do it. Read the book, The Millionaire Next Door. Read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, okay? But don't follow this educational system in the United States. It sucks. Go ahead, Jatovi. Defend your results. Defend your results, Jatovi. Please turn your mic on so we can hear you. Defend
Thank
your.
you.
We can't hear you. We want to hear more about how
I
you
got
defend.
it.
How you
Hold on.
defend the bottom
You're
70%.
muted. There you go.
There we go. You are completely wrong in what you're saying. Completely wrong. You are blaming
Here's the
the
result,
of a
Mr.
capitalist system.
Here's your report card.
Yep.
Doesn't
You are
look good.
blaming your fault of the capitalist system and the greed that Kim was exactly just talking about on a K through 12 system. You are saying that these rich people are just smarter than everybody else. Incorrect. You are claiming that these rich people, oh, they all took financial learning. No, that is wrong. what has happened is our capitalist system has, those are the ones of those 10% that we keep giving tax breaks to. We're not giving tax breaks to them because, oh my gosh, I took a financial literacy class and these tax breaks should go to the upper class. That has nothing to do with it. It is the faults of our capitalist system. It is the faults of our money in politics system. It has nothing to do with the education out there where these 70%, our teachers are going into poverty. They can be the smartest teachers in the world, but we're taking money away from them. That doesn't have to do with their financial learning. It's their profession that's being attacked by the capitalist system that places money over everything. We sit here and tell people, oh, you're successful if you're rich. That's a lie. You're successful. You can be successful helping people fight against recidivism. You don't make money doing social work, but that is some of the richest and the most nurturing and the thing that we need in this society, especially today. The biggest thing for a return on investment is education. You know what? We cut education because of your comments of, well, we don't need this. What we got to do is we got to take away algebra. No. Do you realize that most of the stuff that we utilize today was created by NASA, which has nothing to do with a financial literacy class? That has everything to do with science, math, even the actual profession that you are a part of doesn't deal with financial literacy. The profession that you are a part of in law and litigation deals with learning how to read and how to write. That is much more, that is a huge thing that we are falling behind on, because if you look at our English or our language and our grades across the globe, we're falling behind that way. So in mathematics, we're falling behind, but you're saying take out math, we need to do something else. No. Do you realize that these other superpowers that are jumping up, for example, India, what are they jumping into and becoming a superpower of? They are building on coding. Where do we call and get our service from in terms of the majority of our PC tech? It is India. It is overseas. And we're sitting here saying that we don't need mathematics. That is redonkulous. Not even ridiculous, redonkulous.
I want to make a little...
To blame our, okay, Kim, but just to blame our faults of the capitalist system on education is wrong.
I want to make a little correction there so that you know, Nick is a financial advisor. So he's not just a lawyer who reads and writes and makes it. One of the reasons why I met him and decided I wanted to work with him was he wanted to improve the financial literacy in our country, because he knew that's why majority of the people were struggling and suffering, including, you know, people who got higher educations, because they were not, one of them were taught anything about financial fitness or how to even do a checkbook or balance your life. They were taught all of these other math skills, but none of them were taught the math skills to put together. So just a little correction there. Nick is a financial advisor. He does understand this, but you're right, Jatovi, where, you know, we need the other math, we need the other things, but we need to also include the financial literacy aspect of it. And one of the things we talked about at NC State when I was sitting on the board of advisors there was implementing the curriculums to include a required financial literacy course. And that's some of the, but it just takes them so long to put in place a course like that. You know, you go to the community colleges, you can change the course and curriculum in a snap. But we're not even doing that.
No, we're not doing that. But Kim, I was going to ask something, and this is actually to Jatovi and everything, because I saw another interesting article about health and science, and we were talking about health and science and things. But I know that Jatovi's wife is in the health profession, and there are a number of healthcare workers that are burning it out. They are saying that healthcare workers are experiencing more mental health issues related to the various crises that are going on, and apparently there is a major burnout in that industry, and I can only imagine what it would be like to work in the particular lane that your wife works at, and all along those lines. But what is your thoughts around this healthcare crisis with our workers? Because apparently a lot of the workers are like, just like the teachers, they're like, I'm out of here, and there's too much going on and everything. And I'm sure that you have that conversation with your own family, but I'd love to hear your thoughts around that.
Again, it all boils down to, and this is again why I'm adamantly against blaming the K through 12 system about everything, because this again has nothing to do with the K through 12 system. This has to do with the same thing the auto workers are going through. This has the same thing that the writers and the actors are going through. People are being underpaid and they know it. And being underpaid doesn't have to do with, again, K through 12. It's not that. That has all to do with someone's greed who has all the money. And when they have all, and so therefore that all of it's similar. People are now starting to realize they are worth more. And some due to financial literacy, some due to the fact that I'm tired of taking such cheap pay for doing all this labor. So again, it's just one of those things that we've got to
answer that question too. I predicted this, and it's going to get worse. But the way that things are done, people do not want to go into the medical industry anymore because it costs them too much. The student loan debts are too high, and the recovery, return on investment is not there anymore because insurance gets all the money. Like I sat down and spoke with my doctor one day. Do you know the doctors only get $10 per visit? Yet you're paying into your insurance, $200 or $300 a month. Some of us are paying $500 to $1,000 a month, depending on your deductible and then your deductible. But they're only getting $10 per visit. And most of the time, like with my situation right now, the insurance has decided right now at the end of the year when I met my deductible that they're going to deny all of my treatments. All of them. So now I have to go to the insurance commissioner. So my doctor is saying, well, the insurance isn't paying for this. How are you going to pay for this? Well, I've already paid it through my premium and my deductible, but this is why we don't have enough people. And the ones that we do have are overloaded, overworked, and going crazy. And they're going to drop out like flies, and we will have no medical care in the United States in 10 years. None.
Exactly. And this is another reason why I'm against, hey, let's hone in on making money so imperative that people only think, if I can't take this job because it doesn't pay me enough, so therefore I'm only going to take this job. So then if we focus so heavily on, hey, everybody should learn financial literacy from K through 12, because then they'll understand that, you can't be a technician. You have to be this. So, we're not going to have any more plumbers. We're not going to have any more people doing lawn care and stuff that are necessities out there, because we focus so much on finance and saying that finance and money are the only important thing in life. It's not true.
Financial fitness is important.
It's your scorecard. I hate to tell you, this is the world you live in.
But doctors won't exist. Doctors will not exist after.
It's a problem.
You're saying reality is a problem. Okay.
I'm saying that what we are doing to focus so heavily on money is a problem. For example, are you saying that a person who's going through K through 12, who sees their father as a police officer and enjoys that, and he sees such pride in that profession, gets a course in financial literacy, finding out that a police officer makes so little that therefore it's a disgusting profession for him. Now, you know what? We have less in law enforcement.
Yeah. And the thing is, what happens? The immigrants come in here, crossing the border, see that to be an opportunity, and they take over.
Incorrect.
As these people.
Correct. That is wrong, because everything ties together. And if we focus so heavily on money, and you say, oh, well, the immigrants are going to come over, and they're going to, no. People already, those same individuals that you talk about that already focus so heavily on money, it's the Republican talking point. Do you know what they call immigrants? Do you see what they see about the immigrant population when they're saying they're a drain on our society, that they cost too much money? So therefore, we're going to push out immigrants. So now we're still in a hole. Nobody to help out those positions and fill those gaps.
That's definitely not how they think.
And
What you do,
I
Jacoby, you pull
disagree
one or
with not
two
having jobs.
Republicans and they say they all think that way. And that's just absolutely not true. And also all your crying about the UAW and they got screwed. Listen, none of those people got screwed. And I'll tell you why.
None of them got screwed.
There's a movie that came out called Golda. No one saw it because it was prior to the war, but it's a great movie. It cost $30 million to produce. So the people
When did
that
it come out?
capitalists put in 30 million. You know how much they got out? They got 5 million. They lost.
So wait. Nick,
So
when did this movie come out?
pony up. The actors need to pony up for the
When
loss.
did this movie
No,
come
they
out?
don't. It just came out like in 2023, early 2023.
So it came out in 2023. Okay. So before, and you're talking about before the strike. Do you know how many actors worked on that film?
And it did not do well in the box office, even though Helen Mirren played Gold. It was a great movie.
How many actors worked on that film?
Okay. I don't know. Why are you getting in the weeds? Let's get into the reality here.
Because you do these general platitudes to make a
your thinking is that if they made a lot of money, your thinking is if the person who put the money into the till made a lot of money, they should share it with all the employees. Okay. But if they lose money, the employees get to keep it and go to the producer. Life doesn't work that way. If you want to take the risk,
if a person works, they shouldn't get paid.
You cannot sit there and have that employee mentality. I am going to have a guaranteed paycheck, but I also get bonus.
That if a person puts in work, they should not get paid unless the owner gets paid?
No, well, what happens is here's how owners think, and I know you grew up with the employee mentality. How owners think is, I put my capital into something. If I lose money, and I have lost money in a lot of deals, I take it on the shin and I don't get paid.
That means that
not only do I not get paid, not only do I not get paid, I lose money. I lose money and I don't get paid. I've worked many hours where I don't get paid and lost money.
You just said a person putting in that money.
Entrepreneurs do.
No,
Employees do. I get paid whether the business makes money or not. This is employee mentality. And if the business owner makes a lot of money, I want his share too. It doesn't work that way.
That's not what they're asking for, and that's not what the auto workers are asking for.
That way. So
the auto workers are, and actually, you don't even know what the actors are asking for. Do you realize that the actors are asking for from a 2% share to a 3% share?
If you want to participate in the profits of Ford, buy their blood.
Do you realize the actors are only asking for a 1% more share, going from 2% to 3%?
Have them ask for stock options.
3%, and you can't even give them 3%.
No, dude. They want what we call.
I was on the line. I marched the line.
Okay,
I marched the picket line. Nick,
all
I
employees
think I was there.
My salary.
Nick, listen, I have a little bit more information than you because I marched that picket line. You did not.
What?
So what they are asking for is going from 2% to 3%.
But it's guaranteed payment, isn't it, Toby? Talk to me. Is it guaranteed or not?
2%.
Producers, executive producers don't get any
actors get paid off of the strings.
Dude, in all investments,
actors get paid off of the strings, or do the owners? The owners of the film get paid off of the strings, correct?
Money gets
For example, who here gets paid off the streams that go out?
So if it's guaranteed money, they need to be careful because executive directors and producers, executives do not get paid guaranteed money. They get paid if there is a profit of any kind. Granted, some of them got really lucky or were really good and they made millions and millions. But the people who get guaranteed, because Nick and I, a lot of times we'll pay the people, we paid the directors or we paid people to do a lot of the work, but we didn't get anything because at the end of the day, the story didn't get bought. So you have to be fair to the people who put all the money into it and paid the people guaranteed money.
So again, this is where
living has gone up.
This is where
living has gone up. So
this is where we're saying that the workers
give them a guaranteed split profit. Give them a
So this
guarantee.
is where we're saying that the workers who put in the labor and the amount of hours that are 2 to 3 times more than the person who just puts the money in
True.
should not get paid.
That's not true. The people who put the money in sometimes put a lot of work into it too.
They put in the work
So, and
too.
I think that if you want it to be fair, then be fair and tell them they get an equity stake, just like the producers do. And
Yeah,
then,
put all the
okay, they
cents
get
on the
paid
table.
when the producers get paid. That's fair to me. That would be
Yeah.
fair to me.
They
Okay,
get
you
paid
want
when the
the
producer.
same thing
So
I
an
get?
actor,
You
You
wait.
get paid when we
actor
get
who
You
puts
wait
in
until
an
I get
actor or
paid.
an actor or
paid.
even
And
just
if
any
it
worker
loses money,
who
you don't
puts
get
in
paid.
30 to
No
40
way.
hours a week,
So what?
and the
right?
producer or the individual who just puts money in there does maybe 1 to 2, making a couple of phone calls, that actor
Those
who
phone
puts
calls
in
and that money was years of work.
Yeah,
Years,
it's not like
years
that money
of
is
work
magically
and
get
so
away.
sweat
you're
and
getting
blood.
so wait. So what you're saying again, if we put together a project,
Money.
so we put together one project, you put and you put in say $40 million. You put in $40 million. You're sitting back, you just put in the money. The actors themselves who are on that project that you've just now created
Who didn't
put
have the
in.
money to do that? Who
I'm
did
not even
just
stating
blood
that.
and
Hold
sweat
on,
for
hold on.
years to get the money?
Hold on, wait. That put in the extra hours, the 80 hours a week, doing all this extra stuff, traveling everywhere, spending their own money and doing the actual work. But the person who put in the money doesn't do anything. These actors doing 80 hours,
But
you're
they
doing nothing.
did. They've worked for many, many years making
No.
that money.
We're talking about the project that you just create now. We're not talking about years back. We're talking about the project you
So where
create
did the
now.
money come from? Did you just
Again,
cast a spell and it arrived?
Again, the project that you create now,
Ooh, we're gonna grow money on a tree.
you threw money at it. You took the gamble.
Years of experience and years and years.
So
of
what you're
old
saying
money.
is that
That's
the
how much
actors
money
should
they're
not
taking.
get paid because
They
you
want
should
it-
get
they
all
want
your
it-
money
I got
back
an
because
idea.
it's even though you took a chance to actually go ahead and convince these people they're going to get paid,
I got an
you're going to
idea.
then turn
Why
around and tell
not
them you're not
build
getting paid
the-
because I'm not getting paid.
So
That
why not
is
take your
poor
money?
business.
Why not take
That
your
is why
pay on
capitalism.
It is
That is
reality.
the
Take your
worst
pay on
part of
equity.
capitalism.
They've been
That
talking
is
about
the
equity.
worst.
Equity is part of the
Reality.
conversation.
You're out there. You think it's poor business,
If
Toby?
you,
I
to
can tell you
me,
it's
if you
reality.
want money
Reality.
like I
Oh,
make,
that is
on
out there, and
investment,
that's part of
then
the
you take the
problem.
risk.
The fact that it's out there doesn't
Take the
mean that it's
risk.
good. There was a mass
Hold on a
shooting that
second. We
just
got to
happened
wrap
the
up
other
because we
day.
actually got to
It
get to
happens.
Sasha's show and everything. But
That's
just
the
really
problem.
quickly, you made a correction. I have to make a correction as well. So since you made the correction about Nick, I'm gonna make a correction about Jacoby because Jacoby's family is actually a family of entrepreneurs. I know that for a fact because there are definitely some folks that are involved in the dental line. They're involved in a number of other businesses. So definitely it is a family of entrepreneurs. So to make the assumption that he does not understand entrepreneurship is a
He's
vast misunderstatement because he comes from a family of vast entrepreneurs. His sister is a dentist. He's got a brother that's involved in a number of entrepreneurship businesses as well. So definitely he comes from a family of entrepreneurs. And in case you didn't notice,
Parents,
he's setting up in the
entrepreneurs.
East Center. So he is an entrepreneur himself and everything.
I want to do something before we wrap. I want to explain something. When you go out to do something, investigate and research it. When I went to I'm going to use this as a funny story. When I went to Universal Studios, these wands were real popular, right? And everybody wanted one, and everybody was going for the good guy wands, Harry Potter's and stuff like that. I got serious. Okay. And the reason why I did, and everybody goes, gosh, your wand's a lot more fun because you could do because you go around, they had these places, your wand is a radio that reacts to another device at certain places, and you can do a spell. Well, this wand can not just do the spell, but it can reverse the spells. So we can't always do that in life, but that was fun. But always put into consideration when you do something, what is it going to take to correct it if you did it not exactly right? And I think that's where we're at right now in our society. We're not putting forth the effort to consider all of the factors of how do we correct things if it's not right. And we don't even try. So it'd be nice to be able to just wave a wand and, there you go, it's there, and then reverse it. But we don't have that luxury. But what we do have the luxury of doing today is getting all the data that exists, and Jacoby knows this because he's an entrepreneur in data. And we can take that data and we could do better research than what we're doing. And we need to quit knee jerking and reacting. And we need to demand our leaders to stop knee jerking and reacting. And that's why we're in this mess, is they knee jerk. They don't think. And that's what I'm going to say to wrap up. So
that makes a lot of sense. That was a great wrap up and everything, and we're going to get out of here. I did learn that one of the most powerful businesses in the entertainment space is also a major entrepreneur and a major business, because I forgot that Amazon and MGM are in bed together until I was watching a documentary recently, and I was going like, wait a minute, this is an Amazon/MGM product and everything. So I guess Amazon and MGM have teamed up, because I was watching a documentary about the loss of land in the coastal area, and that's when I noticed that it was being produced by both Amazon and MGM. So that's a major corporation that has jumped into the filmmaking industry as well.
Well, Amazon's in everything. Amazon's also in the anime. Amazon has, they jumped on. I think you can search for Sony owns a company called Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll has one of the larger databases of anime. And now you can search through Amazon to find stuff on Crunchyroll.
Wow. Amazing. Well, on that note, we're going to get out of here. We got some more interesting conversations next week. I think we may have some guests next week as well, but we're going to get on out of here, and we will have some more conversations. I know they're talking about Ukraine, Russia, and China on the other side right now, but we're ready to get on out of here.